Rorik and the orc, Gorham, make it topside back to the old decrepit chapel. It is still raining and it is still night. The storm doesn't look like it's ready to move on. Gorham hobbles over to an old wooden chair. It strains and groans under his weight, almost threatening to give way and leave him sprawled on the floor. He tells Ingolfer of his capture and the tales the cultists whispered among themselves. As he reveals these twisted stories, his demeanor crumbles. His voice carries a certain haste, as if he would sooner forget the horrors as soon as they were out of his mouth. Ingolfer only asks where they are holed up. Gorham is reluctant, but something about Ingolfer pulls the information from him. He draws the pathway in the dust on the floor. Rorik has never seen a man break down in such a way, let alone an orc. Actually, that's not true. His father. There was a time, long ago. Ingolfer stands, breaking Rorik away from his thoughts before losing himself completely in them. It's time to go back into the breach.
Welcome to the castle, everybody. This is Nightsaber Z42, and this is Table for One, a pseudo podcast where I play through various role-playing games, solo style. And this is part 2 of the Dragonbane playthrough. So we've already established Rorik as a capable human fighter in our Alone in the Deepfall Breach campaign. He's met Ingolfer Stonegaze, and he was tasked with finding an orc who's been captured by cultists. Needless to say, he brought back the orc, and Ingolfer has probably gone ahead and interrogated him to see where the cultists are hiding out, where they have their base, because that's kind of like the end goal, or what I imagine. So after a while, I imagine that Ingolfer is going to send Rorik on his next quest down in Deepfall Breach. And so let's see what he has to say.
My gaze is fixed upon the cultist's subterranean outpost. There find ye Arioch, the devotee of demons who wears the Worldbreaker Shard as a medallion. Wrest it from him so we may remake its power for good. The chasm is restless, magma churns below. Be quick, lest the breach unleash its fury in your path.
So very nice that this time we're not having to worry about pesky goblins or any sort of monsters. No, this is straight up insta-death type of a scenario. If you touch lava or magma, you're gonna melt, like that one guy in Volcano. You know that movie? Anyways, we have the Stone Mall, which is our first location, our first waypoint that Rorik is going to travel to.
This great earthen visage is twisted and warped by time and the chisels of cultists, evoking a fanged monstrosity whose gaping maw presents your entry point. I see blood dripping from those wicked fangs, but I cannot say if this vision is real or prophetic.
Oh boy, already we've got ourselves a beastie boy who is possibly going to block our passage into this warren. So let's see, we gotta ask some questions. What I think we need to establish is something here? Is something hiding? So we're gonna go ahead and take our D6 and roll for that. And so remember, we're just using a basic yes/no oracle for these sorts of questions. So let's see what we got. A 1. Extreme? No. This thing is barren, so there really isn't anything to find here. So what do we see in the chamber or this area? And I think this is a really good time for us to talk about the inspiration table. The inspiration table is really used to provide any details for a specific area that you're looking into. And so there's about 20 different ones, so we're gonna roll a d20 and see what kind of thing that we have here. It should also be worth mentioning that we have 3 different columns. We have the action column, the attribute column, and then we have the thing column. So what is it that we see? What do we see in this area? That is a 5, so we see something that is cursed. So something is cursed here, but what exactly is this cursed thing? So now we're gonna roll the inspiration table for under the things column. That is a 2, so some sort of a cursed arcane, some sort of a magic, possibly something that's going to bar our entrance into this warren. So we have to get around whatever this arcane thing is, and I'm kind of envisioning that it's possibly some sort of a trap, like a sort of a arcane circle that when you step on it, it gets activated and probably blows you up or something, you know, something horrific like that. And so I think what we're going to do here is we're actually going to roll and see what it is that Rorik knows. We're going to roll for Myths and Legends, which is an intelligence based skill. Oh boy, so that means we have a 5. So we need to roll a 5 or under in order to succeed. So not very likely, but let's see what happens. We have an 8. So Rorik takes a look at this area that's on the ground. He sees some sort of, you know, indentations in the surface, or maybe something that's been lost due to time, something that's been worn away in the stone, and he doesn't really quite know what it is. And so I think what's going to happen is he's going to step onto it. What we're going to do, we're actually going to ask a yes/no question. Stepping onto this arcane symbol, is it dangerous? Is it going to hurt us? 6. That's an extreme yes. Oh boy. So let's see, what kind of damage are we talking about? For this one, we're going to be rolling on the suffering damage table. So on a 1 through 2, it's going to be a d6. A 3 through 5 will be 2d6. And a 6 is going to be 2d10. So we could die right here. Let's see what happens. That is a 5, so it's going to be moderate. So we're going to roll 2d6 to see how much damage we take. Alright, that is 7 points of damage right off the bat out of our 12 hit points. Now, I'm not going to roll any sort of reflex save or anything like that because we've already established that this thing is going to hurt. And so I envision that the arcane symbol begins to glow as he steps across the threshold, the circle or whatever, and something comes out and it causes him to bleed, and his blood kind of rolls down into the ground, and you see that it starts to make an outline, so to speak. There's something with fangs. Maybe it's like the picture of a spider with fangs. And so Ingolfir Stonegaze's prophecy or his vision about the blood dripping from wicked fangs has come true in this instance, where as when Rorik bleeds onto this surface, it allows the entrance into the warren to open up before him. Unfortunately for him, that was quite a bit of damage that he took, so hopefully it was worth it. So Rorik is going to continue even further into the warren, or I guess past the entrance, so to speak. Next we have an unknown area, so we're actually going to roll a d20 to see what area we have. That's going to be a 16, so a precarious ladderway. Okay, we take a step into the entrance and immediately we're met with a ladder. Oh, I guess we should probably ask if the ladder is going up or is the ladder going down. 1 through 3 is going to be up, 4 through 6 is going to be down. That is 1, so the ladder is going up. So we're going to have to climb up to get to the next area. But let's see what else is in the area. So we're going to roll our d4 for the location details. That's 2, so we get 2 rolls. And see, our first one is going to be a 1 for contents and another 1 for contents. So we're rolling contents twice. So we're going to take 2d20 and roll both of those for content. All right, I can never remember, that's a dragon, right? So that's a 1, okay. Because 1s are good, dragons are good, demons are not good. So we have a 1, which is abandoned supplies, and then 5, which is decrepit shrine.
The chasm leads up towards death, but not for you, so long as you climb higher than the lost souls trapped within the earth. Take care to look out for any supplies left behind from those who have attempted to steal from the dead.
he begins to climb all the way up the ladder, and he sees that all around this circular chamber there are just these indentations, these sarcophagi that are just buried in there. I don't think that we need to make any sort of a climb check because he's got access to a ladder, but what we should do is see what state the ladder is in. We're gonna roll for the quality, whether it's flawed, mundane, fine, or precious. And I think on anything but a 1, the ladder is going to hold. I think if we get something that's flawed, that's gonna be where we're gonna need to watch out or possibly roll for something. And so we got a 5, which is fine. So the ladder is okay. It's not gonna break down at this point, hopefully. So we've already established that there is going to be something here, some sort of abandoned supplies, and I think that we're gonna actually roll to see if he spots anything. So we're gonna roll a spot hidden, which for Rorik is 10. And that is 14, so that's unfortunate. We do spend a little bit of time making our way up the ladder, so our threat meter has gone down from 6 to 5, and we don't really find anything. So we don't get to draw any treasure cards here, which is rather unfortunate because that would have been really nice. So next up, we have another unknown area. So Rorik gets to the top of this precarious ladder area, this crypt, so to speak. So we're gonna roll our d20 to see what kind of an area we're going into. That is a 3, which is a burrowed tunnel. So he comes up and immediately there is a tunnel. So let's roll our d4. How many times are we rolling? We're gonna roll it twice again. I'm gonna actually sort of maybe roll a little bit better. First one is a 4 for danger, and the next one is a 3, which is an oddity. So let's roll for the oddity first. That is a demon, which is a 20. So we have unsettling laughter. I wonder if this is gonna go right into the danger that we have. A 12, which is an icy surface. Okay.
Stay vigilant, but more importantly, stay on your toes, for the surface is slippery in this icy tunnel. If you should fall, you will be ridiculed by the dead as their laughter follows you. Steel your mind against them and do not let your temper get the better of you.
He gets to the top of this ladder and he sees that there is a tunnel before him. And as he prepares to go inside, he takes a breath. And that's when he sees that he can see his breath. It's now cold. And his armor probably isn't helping. That chainmail, ooh, metal on skin when it's cold outside, I don't know about that. And so he takes a step and that's when he hears the laughter. So what do we need to do? We have an icy surface, so how can that present some sort of a challenge to overcome? I think what we're going to do is we're actually going to have Rorik roll for an acrobatics check and see if he can keep on his feet throughout this tunnel. If he fails, he's going to waste more time and our threat meter is going to go even lower. So our acrobatics for agility is 5, so not very good for him. So let's see what happens. We have a 14. So as Rorik takes a step into this icy cold layer, this burrow, this tunnel, he starts to slip. He slips and he falls. Doesn't take any damage, but he starts to hear some laughter. Something's laughing at him. Can't quite picture where it's coming from because it's echoing all around. There's ice all over this tunnel, from the ceiling to the walls to the floor. And he spends quite a bit of time trying to walk through, only to slip and fall yet again. So our threat is going down to 4, so we can only waste 4 more actions. And here's where we get to the Fool's Crossing.
This crumbling bridge spans the breadth of the rift. Below, a river of magma belches smoke and fire. A small band of orcs encamp on the near side of the bridge. A barricade manned by cultists lies on the other. The orcs siege the bulwark but take no ground. There must be magic at work to repel these skilled warriors so handily.
First off, we have a bridge that's established right there. So I don't really like bridges, but what kind of a bridge are we talking about? Are we talking about like a stone bridge that's pretty sturdy, or a rope bridge that we're just probably gonna fall for? So my yes, no question is this. Are we dealing with a stone bridge? 3, no. So that means that we have to be dealing with a rope bridge. That's probably going to be the alternative there. You're either going to have a stone bridge or some sort of a rope bridge. Okay, so we have a rope bridge connecting the near side to the far side, which has all these cultists, and there's some sort of magic at work, or so Engulfer thinks. So the cultists have set up some sort of a defensive wall, a bulwark that the orcs just can't really get through. And so I think Rorik is going to take a chance. He's going to approach the orcs who seem to be having trouble. Now, let's go ahead and roll to see what their reaction is. There's 4 different possibilities: hostile, wary, open, or friendly. So let's see what happens, what their reaction is. They are wary. So as soon as he approaches from behind, the orcs get battle ready. They begin to reach for their weapons. And I think Rorik is going to have to try to persuade them that he's on their side, or just looking to get across, and maybe that he can help them in some sort of a way. And I think this is going to be a persuasion check. Definitely for sure. The persuasion check to see if he can sway them to his side. That is a demon. Oh boy, that is not good. Okay. And the only thing that really makes sense in this situation is when he tries to talk to the orcs, they suddenly grow hostile. And so they're going to attack. But we need to see how many of them there are. So I'm actually going to roll my d6, and we're going to use the fortune chart for number. That is a 1. Oh, that's... Okay, so he's talking with 1. And this one gets very hostile all of a sudden and draws his weapon. So we're actually going to initiate combat here. So here in this instance, I think that we're just talking with a lone orc warrior while the other orcs are at the bulwark or at the defensive wall. And this warrior gets hostile. And what do these orc warriors have? He has a scimitar. So he's going to raise his scimitar and he's going to have a go at Rorik. Let's go ahead. We're going to draw for initiative. Of course, Rorik gets to draw 2 because he's got some very good talents. Remember, he's got veteran and he's also got army of 1. And so let's see. For Rorik, we have an 8. Uh-oh. And he's got a 6. Also, uh-oh. Let's see what the orc is drawing. It looks like they only get to draw 1. So, oh, wow. Kidding me? We drew a 9 on the orc. Okay, I can dig that. So the orc has 9. That means Rorik actually gets to go twice before the orc does. So Rorik may have been caught off guard by this sudden hostility, but he does get to go first. Orcs have, let's see, 12 HP. So in this instance, Rorik is going to go charging in so he can try to get to the orc before the orc has time to call on his fellow brethren who are at the bulwark. And so he's going to move close and then he's going to just attack. Swords is at 12, so let's see what we get. Hopefully we're not getting another demon. Alright, that's an 18. That is unfortunate. That is a failure. And so we kind of waste our turn just charging in and swiping with our sword, which Orc manages to dodge out of the way just in time. So we're going to roll again to see if he can go ahead and attack yet again. This is going to be our next initiative since we do have 2. That's a 14, so that's also a no. So the Orc manages to grab his scimitar and he's going to go ahead and take a swipe. Now the Orc has a skill level of 12 with 2d6 damage. Oh, of course, they're gonna hit, so that's 2d6 damage right there. I believe we can dodge, and so we are going to go ahead and try to dodge, or parry, right, my bad. We're gonna go ahead and parry with our small shield. So let's roll our sword skill. And that is a 19, so that is a no-go. Wow, this is just not Rorik's day. And so we're gonna roll 2d6. Let's see what happens. That's 4 points of damage. That puts him at 1 HP left. That's not good. He basically gets sneezed on. He's going down. Those germs are gonna kick his butt. And since it's the top of the round again, we do get to draw some more initiative cards. We have a 7 for Rorik. We have a 1, so we have some time, 1 action to possibly turn this all around. And the orc gets, ooh, another 9 for the orc. Let's go. All right, so Rorik gets to go 2 times before the orc. So what can we do? Do we really need to? I think we need to do something about this orc. I think we need to keep up the offensive here and hope that we can do some damage so that we can parlay or something like that. So let's go ahead and roll. 12 or under. That's an 11. So that's going to be 2d6 plus a d4's worth of damage. Let's see if we can turn the tides of the battle. That is 9 points right there. All right, so that means this guy has 3 HP left. Now, can we somehow persuade this orc to lay off his attack? It's a one-on-one fight, and it doesn't look good for either side. So I'm actually gonna roll performance with advantage in this instance. We've dealt a lot of damage to him. So let's see what we get. 18 and 17, so that's gonna be a no. All right, it looks like we're going to have to deliver a final blow. 12 or under. That's a 2. 2d6 with 4. There's no ifs or buts about it. This guy's going down. That's 9 more damage. So Rorik kind of breathes out because he knows what he's got to do. He gave the orc 1 chance, and the orc didn't take it. Swipe! And the orc is down. So, how are the orcs doing that are at the defensive wall? Have they managed to break through yet? This is going to be a yes/no oracle question. 3, that's a no. They have not managed to get through. What about the cultists? Have the cultists dealt with the orcs? Extreme no. In fact, I would go on to say that it looks like the orcs are about to break through, given some time. And so I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to wait until the orcs get through. And by waiting, our threat timer is going down. It's now at 3. Eventually, the orcs do get through, and they take out the cultists there. But how well did the orcs do? So we're going to roll on the power scale here. That's a 3, so they got through with some casualties, so that's going to be power of minor. So they did take some casualties, but eventually they managed to drive the cultists back as they broke through the barricade. And now we are going into the next area, the Shadowed Courtyard. So before Rorik heads down into the Shadowed Courtyard, let's talk about resting, because I think while he's waiting for these orcs to break through this barricade, he's definitely going to be tending to his wounds. He's going to take a short rest, or in this game, they call it a stretch rest. So there's actually 3 types of rest. You have the round rest, which allows you to gain a d6 worth of WP, not HP, but WP, so it doesn't really apply to us here. Then we have the stretch rest, which allows us to recuperate for 10 to 15 minutes and gain d6 HP and d6 WP, and we get to heal 1 condition, which is what we're going to do. There's also the shift rest, which is basically you're going to sleep for 6 to 8 hours, and you recover all HP and all WP and all conditions. So we don't have that much time, because we do have like 3 on our dice threat counter left, and I don't think it's feasible for us to just spend the night here and expect the magma to just hold back. So we are going to take that stretch rest. So we're going to roll a d6 to see how much HP we gather. We get 1. Yay. Wow. So despite that 10 or 15 minute rest, he's still not looking too hot. And so we're going to go on into the Shadowed Courtyard.
Beyond a ruined gate lies a courtyard fronting an ancient stronghold. Scores of cultists dwell within that fortress, but you've no need to take a direct route. Instead, descend the well into the tunnels below.
This is actually perfect for Rorik because the orcs are doing battle with the cultists, so they're all distracted no matter which way you put it. So I think he's just gonna straight up walk in there and try to look for this well. So that's gonna be a spot hidden roll, which is 10 for Rorik. And that's also a 15. Now, I don't think that we're gonna push or anything like that. I think that he does eventually find it, but it does take some time, and that means our threat is going down even more. So now we're at 2. And so remember, once we run out of threat, once it gets down to 0, that magma's coming up, and that's potentially gonna be very dangerous for Rorik. And everybody else in this cavern, I suppose. So over time, he does find it, and of course the orcs are doing battle with the cultists, so hey, it all kind of worked out in the end. And so he goes down this well, and I don't think we really need to roll for a climb check or anything like that, because wells, they have that rope that descends down there, right? So he's just gonna descend down that rope into the ratways, which is next.
These stifling tunnels afford little room for mistakes. Heed not the voice calling you to refuge, for it speaks only lies. Follow the silent darkness, and into the cult's black heart you will emerge.
Now we're in the ratways. Okay, so we have a tunnel. The only voices I think he's going to hear is the voices of combat up above, as the cultists are laying waste, or maybe the orcs are laying waste to the cultists. I don't quite know, and I don't think that really matters at this moment. So we're gonna follow the darkness. So I think the first thing that we need to decide is, are there any rats? Because this is called the ratways. And so let's go ahead and roll our d6 to see what we've got. We have a 6, so that's an extreme yes. We've got a swarm of rats here. Oh boy. Hope you're not afraid of rats, Rorik, because there's a lot of them. Now, unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be a swarm of rats. Or in fact, rats or mice in the actual book. So what are we to do? I think the one thing that kind of does make sense, and I'm really rather thankful for it, vampiric bats are a swarm. And I kind of wish they just kind of said generic swarm or something like that. So we're going to use the vampiric bats as a type of a swarm. So maybe these are larger rats, and that's why their HP is like at 18. They've got ferocity 2, but we also have a torch. So we are going to have our torch in one hand and our broadsword in the... Ooh, actually, how about this? What if we had the shield with one hand and the torch with our main hand? Now, I know that fire is the only thing that can defeat swarms, but I think it's worth looking into here. So we're going to roll on the fortune chart. The oracle, yes, no. Are the rats afraid of fire? No. Extreme no. In fact, they're going to attack. And so let's go ahead and draw for initiative. And we're going to draw for Rorik. First, he's going to draw 2. So we have 7 and 3. The rats have 10, so they're going dead last, and 8, so yes, they are going dead last. All right, so we do have a torch, which, remember, is an automatic 2d6 fire damage, and it's the only thing that can damage swarms. So we're gonna go ahead and roll our 2d6 for fire damage. That's 5 out of 18 HP. So we're also going to attack again with our torch. Whoops, I also got to roll the damage bonus, so let's go ahead and add that d4. So 4, so that would be 9 damage right there. So that's going to be 10 damage right there. So that is enough to defeat the rat swarm right there. So we got really lucky where we managed to deal with the rats before they managed to do anything. So I imagine that Rorik is just kind of like stomping around and just using his torch to brush away any rats that get too close to his ankles or anything like that. I think these are probably going to be about the size of cats or something like that. They're big rats, and so he's just kicking them all around and manages to get a few before they disperse and just go back from whence they came. And so we've made it through the rat ways, and now it's time to delve into the ritual chamber.
A wide pit occupies the center of this room, surrounded by scrawled, fiendish symbols. Steam rises through the pit from the magma below, clouding the space in sulphurous fog. Arioch and a pair of cultist priests lair here, in the midst of some vile ritual, seize the shard and make haste to return.
So we have at least 3 cultists here. One is Arioch, and then there's 2 also in some sort of a ritual. So I think Rorik comes upon this chamber, and of course the cultists are in the middle of their ritual. Their backs are turned to him as they look forward at whatever it is that they're doing. I think he's going to try to sneak up on them, which isn't going to do so well. He's going to have a Bane on sneaking, so disadvantage. So let's see, our sneaking is 5, so yes, highly unlikely. Okay. Sneaking's at 5. We rolled a 5 and a 2. Oh boy. Well, something good finally happened for Rorik. It just happened to be sneaking, which, what are we gonna do with that? So he's sneaking his way into the chamber. What if... the only thing I can really see is him possibly getting a sneak attack on one of these guys, but what if, in this instance, he manages to cut through the necklace or the string holding up this medallion, and he just runs. He's gonna get out of there. It does say make haste to return, so I think that's actually what we're gonna do. So he manages to cut through this necklace, and he grabs it, and he just turns to bolt as soon as Arioch realizes what has just happened. And Arioch turns around and just yells at him, and now we're being chased. What is going on? Okay, so what if we... Well, I think we definitely make it out of this room. So we're running, and he gets out of this chamber, and I think he's gonna go the front way this time, because as soon as he gets out of this chamber and into the shadowed courtyard, there's chaos. There's orcs, there's cultists, they're still at it. Actually, let's find out. Have the orcs dealt with the cultists yet? Extreme yes! Everybody's dead! Except for the orcs. And so, in fact, as soon as Rorik makes it into the courtyard, followed by Arioch and the 2 other cultists, the orcs... Oh, actually, let's see. Are the orcs going to attack Rorik? Are they going to want to pursue him, or are they going to want to pursue the cultists? And I think the answer is rather fairly obvious, so I'm not going to roll on the oracle for this one. So yes, the orcs are going to go for the cultists, and I think they can see a cultist, or they can spot a cultist and know who the cultists are based on what they're wearing. Remember, Rorik is wearing chainmail, and so doesn't look like any type of a cultist, I would imagine. And so he's going to run as the orcs rush in, and now Arioch and the other cultists are being dealt with behind him. And oh my gosh, Rorik has managed to survive this gauntlet of a situation. He was pretty much almost down for the count for a majority of this run, and so I think he is, after leaving the shadowed courtyard and getting to the Fool's Crossing, it's just basically all clear to getting back into to Ingolfer Stonegaze. And so I just imagine that by the end of it, Rorik is just like huffing and puffing back inside the church, and he holds up the medallion or the shard, whatever he's got, and he just drops it at Ingolfer's feet, and he's like, I've got your damn medallion. And that's kind of like how we're going to end this. And so Rorik has successfully completed another quest in the Deepfall Breach. Of course, I imagine that things are going to get steadily more difficult as we go along.
Rorik may have survived this time, but there is still plenty of work to do in Deepfall Breach. Check back in every other Thursday for a new episode of Table for One, a solo role-playing podcast. If you would like to support this podcast, please rate it or give it a thumbs up wherever you happen to be listening from. If you happen to be watching on YouTube, subscribe, and be sure to leave a comment on all the errors that were made. I'm sure he'll like that. Serves him right for giving Rorik so much leeway. Music was provided by Tabletop Audio and AI voice work by 11 Labs. Wait a minute. Am I not real?